I've always been a creature of habit. My overnight shift at Patterson Logistics starts at 10 p.m. sharp, and by 2 a.m. I'm deep into the rhythm that sustained me for 3 years. The warehouse hums with quiet efficiency. Automated systems, distant truckers grabbing coffee. It's honest work that keeps America's supply chain moving while most people sleep. Vanessa used to joke that I was part vampire, thriving in those dark hours. She'd call me her night owl when I'd slip into bed at 7 a.m. as she got ready for work. We'd worked out our rhythms over 2 years of marriage, and they felt solid. Predictable, safe. That's why the 2 a.m. call felt natural at first. We'd developed this routine, a quick check-in during my break. Usually, she'd be drowsy but warm, telling me about her day or sharing some silly thought. I settled into the break room with my coffee and dialed her number. "Hey, beautiful. How's my favorite insomniac?" Her voice came through breathless, startled. "Adam? Oh, hi. I was in the bathroom." Something in her tone made me pause. In 2 years of 2 a.m. calls, Vanessa had never sounded winded from a bathroom trip. There was panic there, a flutter that didn't match the sleepy woman I knew. "Everything okay? You sound out of breath," I asked. "Yeah, no, I'm fine. Just couldn't sleep, so I was doing some stretches. Yoga stuff." She laughed, but it came out forced. "How's work? Busy night?" I found myself studying the empty break room, my mind automatically cataloging the strangeness. Vanessa hated yoga. She'd tried classes when we first married, complained endlessly, never mentioned it again. Why would she suddenly be doing stretches at 2 a.m.? "Standard Thursday night? Johnson's on vacation, so I'm pulling double duty." I kept my voice casual, but something was shifting inside me. "You sure you're feeling all right?" "I'm perfect, honey, really, just tired." Another laugh, more controlled. "You should focus on work. I'll try to get some sleep." "Okay. Love you." "Love you too," she replied. The line went dead and I stared at my phone. 24 months of marriage and I'd never heard Vanessa sound like that. Breathless, yes, but not from yoga. There was something else. Guilt, like someone caught doing something they shouldn't. I tried to shake it off, returning to my rounds through the warehouse. But the feeling followed me between towering shelves, a persistent itch I couldn't scratch. I'd learned to read patterns in this business. Which suppliers shipped late, which invoices didn't match manifests. Details mattered. Small inconsistencies usually pointed to bigger problems. By 4 a.m., I was replaying the conversation and other details surfaced. Over the past month, Vanessa had been different. More attentive in some ways, asking detailed questions about my schedule, when I'd be home, whether I might pick up extra shifts. She'd started taking longer showers, spending more time on her appearance. And our physical intimacy had shifted, less spontaneous, more scheduled, like checking a box rather than connecting. 3 weeks ago, she'd mentioned redecorating the living room, last week the bedroom. New curtains, maybe furniture. When I'd asked about expense, she'd waved it off, saying she'd been saving from her paycheck. But I managed our finances. I knew exactly how much discretionary income we had. The sun was rising as I finished my shift. My phone showed 3 missed texts from Vanessa, all sent around 3 a.m. "Sorry if I seemed weird on the call. Just feeling restless tonight. Can't wait to see you." I'd been married long enough to recognize overcommunication as guilt. When she'd dented my truck, she'd sent a dozen explanatory texts before I'd seen the damage. When she'd forgotten the electric bill, she'd prepared a full presentation. Vanessa's natural response to feeling bad was flooding me with words. Sitting in the parking lot, I made a decision that would change everything. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Accusations without proof would just give her time to craft better lies. Instead, I was going to verify what I hoped wasn't true. The house looked peaceful in morning light, our small yard perfectly maintained. Blue shutters Vanessa had insisted on painting still bright and welcoming. This was supposed to be our starter home, where we'd begin our family. We'd been trying to get pregnant for 6 months, timing everything carefully, talking about converting the spare bedroom. Now I wondered if she'd been pretending about that, too. The research phase consumed my off hours for the next week. While Vanessa slept, I sat in the spare bedroom with my laptop, diving deep into surveillance technology. Amazon became my teacher, customer reviews my textbook. I learned about wireless cameras, cloud storage, motion detection, live streaming capabilities. Every product description felt like acquiring surgical tools I hoped I'd never need. The psychology was the hardest part. I was preparing to document my own life's destruction, to become director of a movie I desperately didn't want to see. But methodical research gave me something to focus on besides the growing certainty that my marriage was already over. I settled on 4 wireless cameras, small enough to hide but powerful enough to capture clear video in low light. Living room behind a picture frame with clear view of the couch and front door. Bedroom tucked inside the alarm clock on my nightstand. Vanessa never touched that side. Hallway connecting bedroom to the rest of the house. Kitchen hidden among decorative bottles above the refrigerator, viewing the back door. The cameras would upload automatically to cloud storage, and I could watch live feeds from my phone. If nothing happened, I'd remove them and try rebuilding trust. If something did happen, I'd have undeniable evidence. The installation took place during Vanessa's work hours while I was supposed to be sleeping. Each camera placement required imagining scenarios I didn't want to face. My wife bringing another man into our home, our bedroom, the life we'd built together. The bedroom camera was hardest to position. I had to consider angles, lighting, what exactly I might need to document. Technical aspects helped me stay detached, treating it like a complex work problem rather than my marriage's potential end. Meanwhile, Vanessa's behavior continued shifting in ways my new paranoia amplified. She'd started asking about my work schedule. Not just what time I'd be home, but whether I might stay late, whether Patterson had weekend shifts, whether I'd gotten to know coworkers better. Her interest felt calculated rather than caring. She'd also developed sudden friendship with our neighbor Marcus. Marcus lived 3 houses down, a divorced contractor in his late 30s who'd moved to the neighborhood about a year ago. I'd helped him move furniture when he arrived. Seemed decent, kept his yard neat, nodded politely when we passed. But over the past month, his presence had become prominent in Vanessa's conversations. She'd mentioned casually, Marcus offered to look at that loose railing on the back deck. Simple fix, might save us from calling a handyman. Then it was, Marcus thinks we should trim those overgrown bushes. He has all the right tools. And Marcus mentioned his contractor discount could help with that bathroom renovation. Marcus. Always offered as helping us save money or improve our home. Always mentioned when I was clearly tired, too distracted for follow-up questions. Always presented as practical solutions rather than social interactions. I started noticing his truck during my drive home. Dark blue Chevy Silverado, usually parked on the street rather than his driveway. Sometimes there at 7 a.m. when I got home, sometimes not. I told myself contractors kept irregular hours, but the truck's presence started feeling like a countdown timer. The cameras went live on a Tuesday morning, 1 week after that suspicious phone call. I tested each one from Patterson's break room, watching empty rooms through my phone screen. Image quality was excellent, motion detection sensitive but not trigger-happy. Everything worked perfectly, which somehow made me feel worse. I was ready to document whatever was happening, but still hoped I was wrong. That same Tuesday afternoon, Vanessa sent an unusually detailed text about her day. Grocery shopping after work, then her sister's house to help with baby clothes sorting. She'd probably be home around 8 p.m., giving her time to make dinner before my shift. The message felt like an alibi delivered in advance. I responded casually, but something had crystallized. Vanessa had never voluntarily helped her sister with baby tasks. She found the process overwhelming and usually avoided those conversations. Her sister lived 20 minutes away, and Vanessa always complained about the drive. Why suddenly volunteer for an activity she normally dreaded? For the next 10 days, I checked camera feeds during every break at work. Empty house, empty house, empty house. Part of me started relaxing, wondering if paranoia had overridden common sense. Maybe Vanessa really had been doing yoga. Maybe her friendship with Marcus was genuinely innocent. Maybe I was destroying my marriage with suspicion over nothing. Nothing. But another part, the part that had learned to read patterns in shipping manifests, knew I was waiting for data to confirm what I suspected. In logistics, problems rarely announce themselves dramatically. They showed up as small discrepancies accumulating over time until the pattern became undeniable. I was pretty sure my marriage would follow the same pattern. The notification came at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday night, exactly 2 weeks after I'd installed the cameras. My phone buzzed with a motion alert from the backdoor camera, and my stomach dropped. I'd been checking feeds obsessively, watching empty rooms and starting to convince myself paranoia had gotten the better of me. Now, staring at the alert, I realized I'd been hoping I was wrong. I opened the camera app in Patterson's break room, surrounded by familiar night shift sounds. Distant forklifts, automated conveyors, the coffee machine that never worked right. The backdoor camera showed Marcus letting himself into my house with what looked like a spare key. He moved with casual familiarity, not breaking in but like someone who belonged there. He hung his jacket on the coat hook by the door, the same hook where I hung mine every morning. The hallway camera picked him up walking toward the living room. I switched feeds to watch him settle onto our couch. He wasn't nervous or furtive. He picked up the remote, started browsing Netflix like he lived there. The timestamp showed 11:51 p.m. I still had over 7 hours left on my shift. My hands were steady as I opened WhatsApp and created a new group. I'd been planning this for weeks, ever since installing the cameras. If I was going to expose Vanessa's betrayal, it needed to be comprehensive, undeniable, and permanent. A confrontation could be lied about afterward. Private evidence could be dismissed. But a live audience would make everything real and lasting. I started adding contacts: Vanessa's parents, her 2 sisters, her brother, her Aunt Linda, who loved family gossip, her Uncle Bob, who'd walked her down the aisle, her cousins from both sides. Everyone who mattered in her world, everyone whose opinion she cared about, everyone who would judge her for what she was about to do. I titled the group Family Movie Night and set the description as Special Live Broadcast Tonight. You won't want to miss this. The bedroom camera activated at 12:03 a.m. EM. Vanessa appeared wearing a silk robe I'd never seen, black, expensive looking, clearly purchased for this occasion. She wasn't surprised to see Marcus. She didn't startle or act guilty. She walked directly to him, settled into his arms, and kissed him with passion I hadn't seen from her in months. She whispered, "I missed you. I hate waiting all day for this." Marcus replied, hands already working at her robe's belt. "Worth the wait. Your husband working tonight?" "Until 7 a.m. We have all the time we need." The casualness hit me harder than physical betrayal. This wasn't weakness or recent mistake. They were comfortable, familiar with the routine, discussing my work schedule like logistical detail in their ongoing affair. How long had this been happening? How many nights had I been loading trucks while another man was in my bed with my wife? I started the live stream at 12:07 a.m., just as Vanessa was leading Marcus into our bedroom. The WhatsApp group already had 12 members online, late-night scrawlers checking phones before bed. Perfect timing. The stream went live with Vanessa and Marcus on camera, and the group chat immediately exploded. "What is this? Is that Vanessa? Who is that man? Oh my God. Is this live? Tenaciously, what are you doing?" More family members joined as notifications pinged their phones. Aunt Linda was typing furiously. Uncle Bob sent shocked face emojis. Vanessa's mother sent increasingly frantic messages. "Answer your phone right now," and "What is happening?" and "I'm calling your father." I watched through my phone as my wife had sex with another man while her entire extended family watched in real time. Comments kept coming. Disgust, shock, outrage, disbelief. Her youngest cousin asked if this was some sick joke. Her sister demanded to know where I was, whether I knew what was happening. 26 people were watching by 12:30 a.m. The bedroom camera captured everything in clear detail. Not just physical betrayal, but emotional intimacy that hurt worse than sex. The way Vanessa touched Marcus's face, laughed at something he whispered, moved with him like they'd done this many times before. This wasn't just cheating. This was a relationship. Marcus must have heard Vanessa's phone buzzing with WhatsApp notifications because he asked her to put it on silent. She reached over to her nightstand, saw the flood of messages, and I watched her face change as she realized what was happening. She sat up abruptly, reading through the group chat, her skin going pale, even in dim bedroom lighting. "Oh my God. Marcus, we're being watched." "What are you talking about?" "My family, they can see us. There's a camera somewhere." She was frantically looking around now, panic making her voice shake. "Someone's streaming this live. My parents. My mom is watching this." They spent 10 minutes searching frantically, Vanessa crying hysterically while Marcus checked every corner. The group chat had grown to 31 viewers, family members sharing the stream link, everyone trying to process what they were witnessing. Vanessa's father had joined and sent a single message: "Pack your things, don't come home." I felt nothing watching their panic. No satisfaction, no regret, no anger. Just cold completion, like finishing complex inventory and finding all numbers balanced perfectly. Everything added up now. All the small inconsistencies, changed behavior, suspicious conversations. It all made sense in context of a months-long affair conducted in my bedroom while I worked nights to support our future. By 12:45 a.m. Marcus had found the camera in my alarm clock. He held the small device up to his face, expression shifting from panic to rage as he realized someone had been planning this exposure. Someone had installed surveillance and waited for exactly this moment to destroy them both. I was already leaving work, telling my supervisor I had a family emergency. The live stream stayed active as I drove home through empty streets, 34 people watching Vanessa have a complete breakdown, while Marcus tried to figure out their next move. I parked in my driveway at 123 EIM. 37 people were watching as I walked through my front door. Marcus's truck was gone from our street by the time I'd walked through the house, turning off cameras and ending the live stream. 39 people had watched the complete destruction of my marriage, and the WhatsApp group was still exploding with messages when I finally muted it. The damage was done, comprehensive and permanent. In the digital age, shame becomes eternal. Vanessa was sitting on our bed when I returned to the bedroom, still fully clothed, her phone face down on the nightstand like she couldn't bear to see more messages. Her crying had stopped, replaced by hollow-eyed shock of someone processing catastrophic loss. She looked up at me as I entered, and I saw her calculating whether she had any moves left to play. "Adam, please, can we talk about this privately?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the stream statistics. "Privacy? 39 family members just watched you with another man. Your cousin Jessica recorded it and posted it to Facebook before I could end the stream. Your privacy ended the moment you brought him into our bedroom." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I never meant for this to happen." "You never meant to get caught. There's a difference." I sat down in the chair across from our bed. The same chair where I'd folded laundry while she talked about her day, where I'd watched her get ready for work, where I'd planned to sit while feeding our future baby. "How long, Vanessa? Does it matter now?" "It matters to me." She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. 6 months. It started when you were working those extra shifts back in the spring. 6 months. A quarter of our marriage. While I'd been putting in extra hours to build our savings for the house improvements she kept requesting, she'd been using those same hours to betray everything we'd built together. The house improvements that required Marcus's contractor expertise. The money she claimed to be saving. The sudden interest in my work schedule. The money for the bedroom furniture. The bathroom renovation fund. Where did it really go? Hotels, mostly. A few dinners. I bought some things. She gestured vaguely at herself, probably meaning expensive lingerie I'd never seen. I was going to pay it back. With what money? You were planning to leave me for him, weren't you? Her silence was confirmation enough. My phone buzzed with a call from her mother, then her sister, then her father. She wasn't just losing her husband. Her entire family was cutting her off in real time. The calls kept coming, and I watched her realize that her safety net was disappearing as quickly as her marriage. "Marcus is divorced," she said suddenly. "His divorce was finalized a few months ago." "I know. I looked him up after I started suspecting. I'd done more than look him up. I'd found his ex-wife's social media, seen her posts about dating again after her husband's affair. She posted about his cheating pattern 2 years ago, photos of texts, hotel receipts, everything. You weren't his first, and you probably weren't going to be his last. Vanessa's face crumpled as she realized she'd destroyed her marriage for a man who'd already proven he couldn't be faithful to anyone. The pattern was probably familiar to Marcus. Find an unhappy wife, offer practical help and emotional attention, escalate to an affair, then disappear when the situation became complicated. He'd fled our house the moment he realized he was being watched, abandoning her to face consequences alone. I was confused. Our marriage felt routine, and he made me feel... Don't. I stood up, suddenly exhausted by the predictability of it all. Don't give me the speech about feeling unappreciated or misunderstood. You made a choice every day for 6 months. You looked me in the eye every morning and lied about where you'd been and what you'd done. You planned this betrayal while asking me about having children together. My phone rang again. This time it was my own mother, probably alerted by the extended family network that connected our social circles. I declined the call, but the interruption reminded me that this scandal was spreading beyond Vanessa's immediate family. Our church, our neighbors, my co-workers who knew her, everyone would know about this within days. You need to pack your things. Tonight, I answered. Where am I supposed to go? My parents won't even answer their phones. My sister sent me a text saying she never wants to see me again. That's not my problem anymore, I replied. She stared at me like she was seeing me clearly for the first time in months. The accommodating husband who'd worked extra shifts to fund her lies was gone. The man who'd trusted her completely was gone. What remained was someone who'd methodically planned her destruction and executed it with devastating efficiency. You recorded everything. You planned this whole thing. It wasn't a question. I needed to know the truth. And I needed everyone else to know it too. She didn't have an answer for that. She started packing mechanically, pulling clothes from our shared dresser while I watched from the doorway. Her movements were automatic, like sleepwalking through the end of her old life. Every few minutes, her phone would buzz with another message and she'd flinch like being physically struck. By 3 a.m., she had 2 suitcases packed and was standing in our living room, looking around like she was memorizing details. The house felt different already, less like our shared space, more like my sanctuary being reclaimed. I'll need to come back for more of my things. Call first. And bring a witness, I replied. She nodded, understanding that we were already transitioning from husband and wife to hostile parties in a divorce proceeding. The legal aspects would be straightforward. Adultery was still grounds for fault-based divorce in our state, and I had video evidence that couldn't be disputed. I watched from the window as she loaded her car and drove away at 3:47 a.m. EM. The street was quiet, but I noticed lights on in a few neighboring houses. Word was already spreading through our small community. My phone had 43 missed calls and over 200 text messages. I turned it off and sat in my empty living room, surrounded by the silence that comes after a storm. Everything had gone exactly according to plan. For the first time in months, I felt completely at peace. 6 months later, I was living in a house I actually owned, driving a truck that was fully paid off, and sleeping better than I had in years. The divorce had been finalized in record time. Vanessa's attorney couldn't argue with video evidence, and she was in no position to demand anything beyond personal belongings. I kept the house, the savings account, and my dignity. She kept her shame and a reputation that would follow her wherever she went. The promotion at Patterson Logistics came 3 months after the divorce. Management had noticed my increased focus during the crisis. I'd channeled all emotional energy into work, picking up extra shifts and streamlining inventory processes. The raise meant I could afford mortgage payments alone, and the supervisor position meant day shifts. No more overnight hours, no more wondering what was happening in my empty house. I'd started dating again, carefully and selectively. Sarah worked in accounting at a different logistics company, had been divorced herself, and understood the value of taking things slowly. She appreciated my straightforward communication and unwillingness to tolerate dishonesty in any form. Our relationship was built on transparency rather than romance, which felt healthier. The fallout from that night had exceeded even my strategic expectations. Vanessa had become a local legend, not the kind anyone wanted to be. Her family's reaction had been swift and permanent. Her parents had moved to Arizona within 2 months, unable to handle gossip in their church community. Her sisters maintained minimal contact. Her brother had unfriended her on all social media and refused to include her in family events. The professional consequences had been equally severe. Word had reached her dental office through overlapping social networks, and while they couldn't fire her for personal conduct, the atmosphere had become toxic enough that she'd resigned. She'd moved to a city 3 hours away, working reception at a small medical practice and living in a studio apartment. Marcus had never returned to our neighborhood. His contracting business had collapsed after other wives came forward with similar stories. Apparently, my video evidence had prompted his ex-wife to share her own experiences, creating a pattern that destroyed his professional reputation. He'd moved out of state, leaving behind a trail of ruined marriages. The moral complexity of my revenge had never bothered me. I hadn't destroyed an innocent person. I'd simply revealed who Vanessa really was. The livestream wasn't cruel punishment but strategic justice, ensuring that her betrayal carried appropriate consequences in our community. I'd learned valuable lessons about trust and verification that served me well in my new relationship. Sarah and I shared passwords, schedules, and social media accounts without being asked. We'd both been betrayed by people we'd trusted completely, and we understood that real intimacy required transparency, not privacy. 1 year after the divorce, I received a friend request that made me smile. It came from Marcus's ex-wife, along with a message thanking me for evidence that had secured her favorable custody arrangement and alimony settlement. My video had become part of the legal record in her divorce proceedings, demonstrating a pattern of adultery that had cost Marcus significantly in court. The story had taken on a life of its own in our community. Young married couples used it as a cautionary tale about the importance of honesty. Parents shared it as a warning about permanent consequences of digital exposure. Church groups discussed it as an example of how private sin becomes public judgment when technology intersects with betrayal. Vanessa had sent me a single message 6 months after the divorce, a brief apology that felt more like closing a business transaction than addressing the destruction of a marriage. I'd read it once and deleted it without responding. She'd forfeited the right to closure when she'd chosen Marcus over our future together. Standing in my house on a Sunday afternoon, watching Sarah help me install new shelving in what would eventually become our shared home office, I reflected on how completely my life had transformed. The revenge hadn't just destroyed my betrayers. It had liberated me from a false relationship and taught me to value authentic connection over comfortable routine. I wasn't haunted by what I'd done. I was empowered by it. The live stream had been precise, proportional, and devastatingly effective. Vanessa and Marcus had learned that modern betrayal carries modern consequences, that privacy is an illusion when trust is violated, and that some people are capable of strategic patience that exceeds their capacity for forgiveness. Justice, I'd learned, doesn't always require forgiveness. Sometimes it just requires making sure that actions carry appropriate consequences. I'd turned my worst day into my greatest victory, and I'd never been more satisfied with a strategic decision in my life. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.